Probably would have been a city, you know, if it would have kept thriving.
But then people started to disappear, just gone.
From people disappearing in the woods to their bodies being found later completely devoured, this is the heartbreaking story of how Yeti terrorized an entire town. Let's dive in. Portlock, the ghost town of Alaska. Something strange began happening in Alaska. Mysterious disappearances and horrifying deaths created a chilling atmosphere. Whispers of a strange creature circulated through the land, and the fear it caused became so intense that an entire Alaskan village was abandoned. Portlock, once a thriving settlement, was left to crumble into a ghost town. But what made Portlock so terrifying? This quiet village by the sea seemed peaceful, but its history was anything but ordinary. For centuries, people tried to live there, but the area was abandoned not once, not twice, but 4 times. Portlock's story stands out from other ghost towns across America, not just because of its haunted past, but because it felt cursed. The earliest known explorer to visit Portlock was a British captain named Nathaniel Portlock, who arrived in 1785. He gave the land its name, but his encounter with it also marked the beginning of a long, troubling legacy. When Portlock's crew arrived, they discovered signs of an old native village. People had clearly lived there before, but for reasons unknown to anybody, they had all vanished. It was puzzling because the area had everything needed for survival: an abundance of animals, fish, and resources to sustain life. Despite this mystery, Portlock's crew—
The caveman is a real person. He didn't want to live with people. He went to live in the forest. Soon his clothes were worn out, so his body became hairy. Soon his shoes were worn out.
Decided to stay and establish their settlement. But then, things took a dark turn. Crew members began falling ill, and it wasn't just physical sickness. They experienced overwhelming fear and an eerie sense of dread that seemed to weigh heavily on everyone. Even the strongest among them were overcome by terror. Desperate and weakened, the crew urged Portlock to leave, and reluctantly, he agreed. They abandoned the land, leaving its secrets behind. As scary and strange as their stay was, they were not the first outsiders to experience these strange occurrences. 6 years before Portlock's arrival, a group of Spanish explorers also attempted to settle in the area. Like Portlock's crew, they found it strange that such a rich and bountiful land had been deserted by its original inhabitants. It didn't take long for the Spanish to understand why. They too were attacked by the same strange illness and unshakable fear. Worse yet, they began hearing unsettling cries echoing from the dense forests surrounding their camp. The sounds grew closer each night, filling the crew with dread. One by one, the explorers gave in to their fear and sickness, leaving them no choice but to flee the area. For generations, stories of Portlock's strange phenomena have kept people away. Whether it was the mysterious illness, the chilling cries in the forest, or the whispers of a creature haunting the land, Portlock's reputation remains one of terror and mystery, leaving it as one of Alaska's most haunting tales. And yet, the mystery gets deeper. Both Portlock and the Spanish crews had faced harsh environments and unforgiving climates before, but something about this land was different. The air in Portlock carried a sense of unease that neither determination nor experience could withstand. It wasn't just the physical challenges. Something deeper drove people away. Was it a mysterious illness? Or was there another reason for abandoning such a promising place? One explanation pointed to infrasound, a low-frequency sound wave produced by certain mammals. Though inaudible to human ears, its effects are deeply unsettling. Infrasound can cause nausea, dizziness, and a powerful sense of unease, disorienting even the toughest individuals. Predators like tigers are known to use infrasound to freeze their prey, and sperm whales use it to terrify their targets into stillness. If infrasound were behind the strange events at Portlock, perhaps it was emitted by a hidden predator in the dense forests, driving away intruders. Yet, despite such theories, the true source of this menace remained a mystery. Those who dared to return would soon face even greater horrors. For over 80 years, Portlock was left abandoned. Its lands, rich with resources, lay untouched. Then, in 1867, a group of nomadic Sugpiaq natives decided to settle there. They found the area teeming with clams, fish, and moose. To them, it felt like a blessing. They were eager to start new lives in such a bountiful place, but the peace didn't last long. Within just a month, the Sugpiaq faced violent attacks. These weren't the familiar raids from rival tribes. The villagers claimed their attackers were something much worse: man-eating giants. These monstrous beings, large in size and ferocious in nature, didn't come for resources or livestock. They came for human flesh. Night after night, the giants attacked with unimaginable brutality. The villagers tried to fight back, determined to protect their home, but the relentless assaults drained their strength and resolve. Oddly, the giants seemed to disappear whenever wildlife in the forest was plentiful. During these times, the village was left in peace, but as soon as food became scarce in the wild, the attacks resumed with greater ferocity. It became clear that the giants were hunting not only the animals in the forest, but also the people of the village. The Sugpiaq could no longer endure the terror. In 1905, they abandoned Portlock, leaving behind haunting stories of night raids and flesh-eating giants. These tales spread far and wide, keeping others from settling in the cursed land. At least they left a warning sign to anyone curious enough to explore the area. Years passed, and the shadow of fear hung heavy over Portlock. But in 1921, another group decided to challenge its dark history. The nomadic Russian Alutiiq community arrived, bringing with them the advancements of the 20th century. Determined to turn Portlock into a thriving settlement, they built a cannery to harness the wealth of salmon in the waters. They also established essential infrastructure like a post office and a school, aiming to create a modern and thriving town. The people of Portlock were determined to build a safe and thriving community despite the haunting legends of the Nantinaq. Some described the creature as half-man, half-beast, while others believed it to be a massive, hairy being. For the Alutiiq, these stories were deeply ingrained in their culture and passed down by their Sugpiaq ancestors who had fled Portlock years before. The warnings about the Nantinaq haunting the misty forests were not taken lightly.
Too happy about being this close to the woods, but there's really nothing we can do about it.
This is going to be a rough night, guys.
To protect themselves, the Alutiiq implemented strict rules. A nightly curfew was enforced, with armed guards stationed around the cannery, school, and streets. Most importantly, they avoided the dense, foggy forest at all costs. On foggy days, villagers stayed indoors, recounting tales of eerie sounds that echoed through the mist. These precautions worked for nearly a decade. Though residents occasionally heard unsettling noises from the fog, Portlock remained peaceful, and life carried on. But everything changed with one fateful event: the disappearance of Andrew Kamluck. By 1930, Portlock had grown, and so had the residents' sense of safety. The once strict rules were relaxed. In 1931, a logger named Andrew Kamluck decided to venture deeper into the forest, ignoring the long-standing caution to stay near the edges. When he didn't return, his friends organized a search party. What they found sent shockwaves through the community. Kamluck's body was discovered in a horrific state. His head had been crushed by his own sled, a sled so heavy no human could have moved it alone. Nearby, his sled dogs lay shredded, and the sled itself had been flung far from the scene. The gruesome discovery left the search party speechless. The brutality of the attack raised a chilling question: what kind of creature could possess such strength and savagery? Kamluck's death was a stark reminder of the unseen predator lurking in the forest. The once distant threat felt closer than ever. The town was gripped by fear, but it wasn't long before another terrifying encounter took place. Tom Larson, another resident, ventured out to the shore to chop wood for fish traps. As he worked, he noticed something that made his blood run cold: a massive, hairy creature standing upright on the beach. It was too large and animalistic to be human, yet its eyes radiated an unsettling intelligence. Feeling both fear and an odd compulsion, Larson hurried home to grab his rifle. When he returned to the beach, he aimed at the creature, ready to shoot. But as he locked eyes with it, an inexplicable paralysis overtook him. He couldn't pull the trigger. The creature stared him down for a moment before retreating slowly into the forest, leaving Larson shaken and deeply unnerved. Though Larson's encounter ended without violence,
Got on a boat, said that's enough, I'm going.
it solidified the town's fears. The Nantinaq was no longer just a story. It was real, and it was growing bolder. No longer content with stalking the forests, it had begun targeting humans directly. The once thriving Portlock now found itself at the mercy of a predator whose power and presence were impossible to ignore. Kamluck's death seemed to awaken something in the creature, a primal, vengeful instinct. Not long after, more residents of Portlock began disappearing, leaving the town in a cloud of fear. People began to whisper about the Nantinaq, describing it as a vengeful spirit, something relentless and unforgiving. They compared it to a tiger that holds a grudge against hunters, or an elephant seeking revenge on those who have harmed it. The Nantinaq, they reasoned, was no different. a creature filled with wrath, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. At first, a few gold miners vanished, but the townsfolk assumed that they had gone on long trips. Then a group of hunters disappeared, raising more questions. Still, people reasoned it was just another extended expedition. But as the disappearances continued, a darker pattern began to take shape. Each vanishing felt closer to home, as though the predator was inching its way into the heart of Portlock. Soon, the truth became undeniable. Bodies began to surface, their fates gruesome and horrifying. Some were found in the bay, marked with deep claw and bite wounds. Others were discovered along trails or rivers, their remains so mangled they were almost unrecognizable. Whatever was stalking Portlock had an insatiable hunger, and its attacks grew bolder. The Alutiiq people, desperate to protect their community, tried to restore their strict ancient rules to keep everyone safe. Guards were doubled, curfews were heavily enforced, and caution became the town's way of life. Yet nothing worked. The Nantinaq was relentless, finding its prey regardless of the precautions taken.
Man, this place is creepy.
For a while, skeptics clung to the idea that a clever bear might be behind the attacks. After all, bears could roam the same territories as Sasquatch-like creatures, and their behavior could be misunderstood. But this theory quickly lost support. A discovery made after heavy spring rains shattered any lingering doubts. A body, torn apart and dismembered, was found swept down from the mountains. The damage to the remains was something no bear could have caused. The message was clear. Something beyond human understanding was preying on Portlock's residents, and the growing death toll strengthened the belief in the Nantinaq's terrifying existence. Guards patrolled day and night, but they could not stop the creature's rampage. Bodies continued to turn up along well-traveled paths, near rivers, and even washed ashore in the bay. Each was mutilated, bearing the undeniable mark of the predator. Fear consumed the town as the people realized they were being hunted by something far beyond their control. The Nantinaq, whether beast or spirit, had made Portlock its hunting ground. By some accounts, up to 36 bodies were discovered in the area, while countless others disappeared without a trace. Official reports put the number of missing people at around 15, but the native community believed the real number was much higher. They were convinced that the way the bodies were found, mutilated in ways no bear or wolf could manage, pointed to something far more sinister.
Kennecott was the eastern United States, planted right into the middle of the Alaskan territorial wilderness. They brought in electricity, they brought in running water, they brought in steam heat into Kennecott, they brought in creature comforts that had never existed before.
As the disappearances and deaths continued, fear took hold of Portlock. Life in the town became unbearable, and survival seemed less and less likely. The Alutiiq eventually decided to leave in 1950. Their departure was swift and unconventional, with nearly the entire population evacuating overnight. They hoped to escape what they believed to be an intelligent predator hunting them. By the time they left, only one person remained, a post office worker who stayed behind to finish his duties. Alone in the abandoned town, the post office worker experienced chilling nights. Barricaded inside, he reported hearing heavy, two-legged footsteps echoing through the empty streets. Eventually, even he left, and by 1951, Portlock was entirely deserted. It seemed as though the creature, having driven the townsfolk away, might retreat into the wilderness. But its story didn't end there. Years later, the unsettling encounters continued. Unfortunate hunters. In 1969, a hunter ventured into the woods near the abandoned village, hoping to track wild goats. Instead, he felt an eerie presence. At first, there were faint sounds, slow, deliberate footsteps, and rustling in the underbrush. But soon the footsteps quickened, becoming louder and closer. Realizing he was being chased, the hunter ran for his life. He didn't dare look back as a blood-curdling scream echoed behind him. He barely made it out of the forest, shaken to his core. The horror didn't stop there. In 1973, 3 hunters sought shelter in Portlock to escape a storm. That night, they stayed close to each other, unable to sleep. Something circled their camp, growling and making strange, unintelligible sounds. The footsteps were heavy and deliberate, unlike anything they had encountered before. The hunters later insisted the creature moved on 2 feet, something human-like yet entirely monstrous. The tracks left in the grass around their camp only added more questions to the already existing mysteries. Not long after, another group of hunters had an encounter that left them deeply shaken. While following the tracks of a moose, they came across footprints that made them freeze in their tracks. These prints were over 18 inches long, unmistakably human-like, yet far too massive to belong to any person. With a mix of curiosity and fear, they decided to follow the trail.
I can't hang out any longer, man. We need to get some shelter.
Did see a cabin when I was doing my scout earlier. It's just a little ways that way. It's creepy over there, and it's right next to the woods, but at least we have a windbreak.
As they tracked the giant footprints, the hunters' unease grew. In a clearing, they found signs of a violent struggle. The grass was flattened, the evidence of a fierce battle unmistakable. But what really disturbed them was the instant end to the moose tracks. It seemed as though whatever left those enormous footprints had overpowered the moose. These assumptions were chilling. What kind of creature could take down a fully grown moose? The man-like footprints continued up the mountainside, suggesting that this was no ordinary predator. It was something beyond explanation, something terrifying. These strange events in Portlock have drawn the attention of experts for years. This particular case, involving the massive footprints and the vanished moose, has been examined more closely by anthropologists than almost any other piece of Bigfoot evidence. Whatever it was described as both massive and unexplainable. As time passed and Portlock faded into legend, the stories of the Nantinaq, believed to be the creature behind these strange events, remained. These tales became a warning, a reminder that some places are best left untouched. For those who got too close, the lessons of Portlock carried a chilling message.
I really believe Portlock is evil.
There's a lot of strange stuff happening down there.
In 1990, a more recent and unsettling account added to the mystery. An Anchorage paramedic responded to a 70-year-old inmate in Eagle River Jail who had suffered a heart attack. While working to stabilize the man, the paramedic attempted casual conversation. He mentioned his experiences hunting near Portlock, hoping to break the ice. What happened next was startling. The elderly man suddenly gripped the paramedic's shirt with an intensity fueled by fear. His eyes, wide with terror, conveyed panic. The man demanded to know if the paramedic had seen it or if it had bothered him. The guards had to restrain him, but his fear was unforgettable. As he was led away, his haunting question echoed through the hall. With all these reported encounters, could it be that the scientific community refuses history of Portlock since they do not want to accept the existence of Bigfoot, or they are just in denial, doubts, and skepticism? The stories of Portlock's mysterious predator have captured imaginations for years, but not everyone believes the legend. Some suggest there are simpler explanations for the strange happenings in this remote Alaskan town. For instance, some argue that the disfigured bodies blamed on the humanoid creature could just as easily have been the result of bear attacks. Bears, after all, can stand on two legs and, in the right light, appear almost humanoid. Still, this creature didn't behave like an ordinary bear. Witnesses described an animal that moved like it was built to walk on two legs, not just for short distances like a bear would. It also had a flatter face, unlike the pointed snout typical of bears. While skeptics argued that an aggressive bear might have been responsible for the attacks, locals insisted that the damage they saw couldn't have been caused by any bear they knew of. Take the case of Andrew Kamluck. He was a logger found with his head caved in, a death many attributed to the Nantinaq. Skeptics, however, suggested it could have been an accident. They theorized that Kamluck might have struck his head on a tree branch or suffered a seizure, causing him to fall and injure himself fatally. Public cases, like that of Saudi soccer player Abdulrahman al-Shamari, have shown how a seizure can lead to disoriented movements.
Turning up.
People were washing up on the shore.
On top of that, skeptics also pointed out that the torn-apart remains of Kamluck's dogs could have been the work of a bear. But putting these events together, a seizure, a bear attack, and Kamluck's severe injuries, seemed like an extraordinary chain of events to dismiss so easily. But it gets even more interesting. The disappearances in Portlock are another part of the mystery. Over the years, as many as 30 people vanished, their deaths often blamed on the hazardous conditions and dangerous professions of fishing, logging, and hunting. Skeptics try as hard as they can to prove that the mutilated remains found along the rivers and bays are due to bear attacks. Yet locals argued that what they witnessed was far more unusual and violent than any bear attack they'd ever seen. By the 1950s, the legend of the Nantinaq had firmly taken root, spreading across Alaska. Skeptics claimed these tales of two-legged creatures were nothing more than exaggerated or fabricated stories. However, others believe that such legends must have started with some bits of truth, and one specific finding in Portlock remains difficult to explain: the upside-down trees. Locals frequently came across massive trees that had been uprooted and shoved back into the ground, roots in the air. Even critics struggled to come up with a natural cause for this bizarre sight. Some suggested an unusual storm or hurricane could be to blame, but many insisted this was the work of the Nantinaq. Perhaps the most puzzling aspect of the story is the way the town of Portlock was abandoned. For those who believed in the Nantinaq, one question lingered. If the creature was just a bear, why didn't the Alutiiq people hunt it down? Alaska's laws allow residents to kill animals that threaten life or property, yet instead of organizing a hunting party, the entire community left their homes almost overnight in 1950. Some think the Alutiiq people were trying to outsmart a highly intelligent predator, one that might retaliate if it sensed people were preparing to attack. Believers point out that creatures like Bigfoot are often thought to avoid humans during hunting seasons, retreating deep into the wilderness to stay safe. Perhaps the Alutiiq people felt that fleeing was their only option to escape an enemy too clever and dangerous to confront. Interestingly, some residents of Portlock, like Sally Ash, offer a different take on why the town was abandoned. Ash dismissed the idea of a monstrous creature driving people away and claimed that the sudden evacuation was due to practical reasons.
I think what he is a demon of the forest. Portlock was cursed and Bigfoot's place and nobody goes there.
Like better economic opportunities, schools, and churches in nearby towns like Nantinaq and Seldovia. Her explanation matches regional trends at the time, which encouraged families to move to more prosperous areas. However, her story becomes more complicated when compared to her cousin Melania Kell's account. In a 2009 interview, Kell claimed that people fled Portlock because something, referred to as the Nantinaq, was killing them. Her chilling story reignited interest in the legend. In a later interview, Ash firmly denied this version of events. She acknowledged sightings of the Nantinaq, but insisted it didn't play a significant role in the town's history. Imagine moving through thick brush, the forest closing in on all sides, when suddenly, Bigfoot, the creature of countless legends, is right in front of you. For most, it's hard to believe these tales could hold any truth, but as the light fades and shadows grow, the forest starts to feel like a place where myths could easily come alive. One adventurer recently found themselves face to face with the creature in these very woods. Interestingly, Washington State reports the most Bigfoot sightings, with 676 recorded encounters, while California follows closely with 445. Across the U.S., more than 10,000 sightings have been reported over the years. The allure of these stories pulls explorers into the mystery, hoping to find what lies beyond the next tree.
Smell that?
It does stink. It smells like wet dog.
Yeah. I think I just stepped into something here.
Nature's wonders and mysteries. For many, nature is a sanctuary, offering a peaceful retreat away from city life. Exploring forests, observing wild animals, or simply enjoying the quiet of mountains and hills brings a sense of calm. But there are times when nature holds more than just scenic beauty. Occasionally, it offers up mysteries, inviting those brave enough to search for answers. Throughout history, humans have been fascinated by creatures like unicorns, mermaids, and dragons. These beings live in legends worldwide, each culture spinning its own tales. Over time, these creatures have faded from memory, becoming relics of a world lost to human progress. Magical forests and deep oceans, once thought to be their homes, have been altered so significantly that there's hardly any room for such legends to survive. Yet not all mythical creatures have faded away. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, still captures the imaginations of many. Described as a large, hairy creature that walks upright, it's rumored to inhabit the dense forests of North America. The mystery surrounding Bigfoot draws people in, keeping it just out of reach and always hiding, a symbol of the unknown that nature may still hold. But curiosity is not the only thing fueling Bigfoot's legend.
It's been said that Bigfoot exhibits nocturnal behavior, perhaps to hunt or to avoid detection. But the cloak of darkness couldn't hide the creature in the stunning footage you're about to see.
For some, the thrill of a possible encounter in the woods adds to the appeal. Bigfoot sightings have been shared across American and Canadian culture for decades, with tales passed down through generations. Yet, despite the fascination, skepticism remains high due to the lack of clear evidence. Most photos are blurry, footprints are debated, and stories can feel more like exaggeration than truth. Still, each year, new sightings spark fresh interest in the myth, seeking proof. This enduring legend isn't sustained by tales alone. Some individuals are committed to finding solid proof, hoping to transform the myth into fact. One of these dedicated explorers is Tony Harris, the energetic host of The Proof is Out There. Driven by a deep curiosity, Harris and others like him push forward, unearthing clues in hopes of one day solving the mystery. Tony Harris has always had an unrelenting curiosity for the strange and mysterious. Known for his investigations into ghosts, strange creatures, and unexplained phenomena, Tony is constantly on the hunt for new evidence that could reveal the truth behind age-old legends. His work takes him to unusual places, analyzing eerie footage and exploring sites where mysteries seem to hide in plain sight. One of Tony's recent adventures brought him to Crawfordville, Florida, where he crossed paths with Stacy Brown Jr., a filmmaker and dedicated researcher of the supernatural. For Stacy, the journey into the unknown began in childhood, inspired by his father's fascination with UFOs and legendary creatures. Together, father and son would venture into the woods, not just for fun, but in a serious pursuit of truth. Whispered legends of Crawfordville. Growing up in a small town surrounded by stories of strange occurrences, Stacy was captivated by tales of mythical creatures and mysterious sightings. These adventures strengthened the bond between Stacy and his father, each trip into the forest deepening their connection. Just as Stacy's fascination with Bigfoot developed through family experiences, other notable researchers have been drawn to this mystery for their own reasons. One of the most prominent figures in the Bigfoot community is Cliff Barackman. Known for his methodical approach and unwavering enthusiasm, Cliff has spent years exploring North American forests, hoping to uncover evidence of Bigfoot's existence. His passion for cryptozoology started as a hobby, but evolved into a serious pursuit as he collected footprint casts and documented alleged sightings, believing that hard data could one day confirm Bigfoot's presence. Another respected figure is Dr. Jeff Meldrum, an anatomist and anthropologist who specializes in foot morphology. Dr. Meldrum is renowned for his academic approach, carefully analyzing footprint casts and skeletal structures to assess whether they align with a creature unknown to science. His research has lent credibility to the field, encouraging a rigorous, evidence-based approach to Bigfoot research. Finally, there's Loren Coleman, one of the earliest Bigfoot researchers and a prolific author. Loren's work, spanning decades, has documented countless sightings and theories, helping to preserve and categorize Bigfoot lore for future generations. His dedication to cryptozoology has shaped the field and inspired countless others to continue the search. Together, these researchers bring diverse backgrounds and methods to the study of Bigfoot, each driven by a shared belief in the possibility that something extraordinary may still be lurking in the wilderness. While other kids might have heard these stories with mild interest, Stacy lived them. His time in the woods taught him not only survival skills but also how to tune into the subtle signs of the wild. Then came a summer in 2012 that neither Stacy nor his father would ever forget. During a tense night in the forest, their thermal camera malfunctioned. As Stacy worked to fix it, his father, a former Army Ranger and usually the calm one, asked him a question that sent a chill down his spine. "Do you have your gun?" His father had never been so unsettled before. That night, they encountered something that felt like more than just a myth, and it left a lasting impression. Back in town, they shared their experience, though many listened with polite skepticism, but the duo knew they had seen something real. Later, during a hike through a forest with a history of strange sightings, they caught a shaky glimpse of a figure in the distance, a sighting that, despite its blurriness, intensified their commitment to finding the truth. Stacy's once childish curiosity had become a serious pursuit, driven by the thrill of discovery and the chance of uncovering a long-buried secret. The search for answers with Cliff Barackman. Stacy's quest led him to share his footage with Cliff Barackman, a seasoned researcher known for his expertise in cryptozoology. Excited by what he saw, Cliff quickly responded, encouraging Stacy to continue his work. Soon after, Cliff put together a team to return to the area, hoping to gather more evidence and analyze the surroundings firsthand. Having Cliff involved made Stacy realize the significance of his discovery and just how big the search for answers had become. Meanwhile, the mystery took another twist when Doug Teague, an outdoor enthusiast, had his own encounter during a quiet walk. As he strolled through the woods, he noticed a large, shadowy figure moving among the trees. With curiosity, he pulled out his phone to record, managing to capture a blurry but unmistakable shape. Though the footage was unclear, Doug felt certain of what he saw. The shadowy figure, towering with hints of silver fur, resembled a creature unlike anything he'd encountered before. His dog, Daisy, seemed spooked, and Doug felt an urgent sense to leave the area. Once home, he reviewed the experience in his mind, replaying the unusual details. Before filming, he had thought the sounds were just woodpeckers, but then rocks began flying toward him, a behavior often linked to Bigfoot sightings. The experience added weight to the growing debate surrounding the creature's existence. The chill of the woods. Just when Doug thought he'd seen it all, another unsettling event occurred. As he headed down the hill, He heard deep, menacing grunts that he couldn't place with any known animal. Moments later, he felt a forceful push, as if something wanted him off the hill. Although he couldn't see anything, Doug left with the uneasy feeling that something powerful and hidden was close by. Doug's story caught the attention of Cliff Barackman, who found the account particularly interesting. The forests of North Carolina have long been known as a hotspot for Bigfoot sightings, with tales passed down over generations. But Doug's encounter was more than just another tale. It was a fresh piece in the ongoing puzzle that keeps researchers, enthusiasts, and skeptics alike coming back to the forest, wondering what they might find next. Ken Gerhardt's theory on Nye and renewed efforts. During his investigation, Ken Gerhardt, another researcher, was reminded of local reports about a creature called Nye, often sighted in the same area. The descriptions matched closely with Doug's encounter, which prompted Ken to return to the site equipped with cameras and other tools, hoping to capture more evidence and possibly confirm the creature's existence. Cliff Barackman's dedication also yielded results when he found tracks and obtained video footage on a hot summer day. Carefully molding casts of the prints he discovered, Cliff finally had some of the solid evidence he had been searching for. Upon comparing these tracks with previously authenticated samples, the similarities were striking, giving him a sense of assembling a vast puzzle, although several pieces were still missing. Despite promising new clues, uncertainty remained, urging the team to push their search further. Caution and skepticism. While the evidence seemed compelling, not everyone on the team was immediately convinced. Tony, a cautious investigator, found the video too blurry to draw definitive conclusions, though the tracks fascinated him. He noted the realistic appearance of the prints, but advised a skeptical approach, reminding the team of past instances where even seasoned investigators had been fooled by fake tracks. Despite his caution, the latest findings provided enough motivation to keep exploring. Lucy Eckersley, the team's wildlife biologist, maintained a scientific approach to the mystery. After examining the distance between the tracks, with strides spaced around 6 feet apart, Lucy acknowledged that such measurements could suggest a massive creature. However, she required more substantial proof before accepting the possibility of an unknown species. This scientific skepticism is echoed across the scientific community, where many experts remain unconvinced of Bigfoot's existence due to a consistent lack of conclusive evidence. For decades, biologists and zoologists have scrutinized reported sightings, footprints, and blurry photographs, but none of these has provided undeniable proof of a creature like Bigfoot. Most samples collected, such as hair or tissue, have turned out to belong to known animals like bears, wolves, or deer. Skeptics argue that eyewitness accounts are often unreliable due to psychological factors, including misidentification and the tendency for the human mind to find patterns, which may explain many Bigfoot sightings. Furthermore, researchers highlight the absence of physical evidence, such as bones or remains, which would be expected if a large creature inhabited these forests. Without such concrete proof, scientists caution against viewing Bigfoot as more than a myth, a symbol of the mysteries humanity still yearns to solve. This critical perspective fuels the debate, leaving enthusiasts and researchers alike questioning where evidence ends and legend begins. As the team continued searching the forest, each new finding added depth to their understanding, but also left them with additional questions. The quiet forest held its secrets closely, with every rustle and shadow hinting at something hidden and fueling the excitement of their investigation. Their mission went beyond proving or disproving theories. They sought to understand how this elusive presence fit within the forest's ecosystem. Huge footprints suggested a creature of potentially massive proportions, perhaps as tall as 15 feet, based on stride length alone. However, the actual figure they managed to capture on film remained ambiguous, with only the tracks attesting to its size. Lucy's observations and Daisy's calmness. Lucy soon noticed something peculiar in the footage. Daisy, Doug's usually alert dog, appeared unusually calm despite the large creature's proximity. Typically, a dog would react instinctively to an unknown animal nearby, especially one of considerable size. Daisy's indifference cast doubt on the creature's identity. Lucy suggested it could be a bear, given the ambiguity, yet Doug's description complicated this theory. He mentioned the creature's rock-throwing behavior, something bears can't do due to their lack of dexterous hands. Lucy then proposed a silverback gorilla as a possible match, since gorillas are capable of throwing objects and share a similar stature and build. However, the gorilla theory held its own contradictions. Silverbacks don't inhabit the area, making their presence there highly unlikely. This raised even more questions. If it wasn't a bear or gorilla, then what could it be? A new species or a misinterpretation? As the mystery grew, another possibility emerged, that the team might be observing a completely unknown species. A new species or a misinterpretation? As the mystery grew, another possibility emerged, that the team might be observing a completely unknown species. Daisy's calm behavior could imply that the creature's scent was familiar or non-threatening, possibly hinting at an undiscovered species that coexists quietly with other animals. Some speculated it could even be the elusive Sasquatch, a creature that has long captivated imaginations, yet remains scientifically unverified. Lucy then posed an unsettling question. Could Doug have misinterpreted what he saw? This notion introduced a fresh wave of doubt, pushing the team to reevaluate their findings and igniting a new sense of excitement. It felt as though they stood on the brink of uncovering something truly extraordinary, urging them to press on in their search for answers. The last push into the wild. The team's continued expeditions kept their hearts racing as they navigated the forest, pondering if they might finally encounter the legendary Bigfoot. Across North America, tales of a giant hairy creature resembling a human have fueled countless investigations. One enduring reason for Bigfoot's cultural prominence is the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, which captured what appeared to be a large ape-like creature moving through a California forest. Despite numerous similar stories, definitive proof of Bigfoot's existence remains elusive. In the scientific community, attempts to validate the creature's existence have often led to inconclusive results. For instance, one major study tested 36 hair samples alleged to be from Bigfoot. Upon analysis, all samples matched known animals like deer, raccoons, and bears. Such findings highlight the ongoing challenge of separating legend from reality in the search for Bigfoot. The challenge of hoaxes and the allure of mystery. While many people passionately pursue the idea of Bigfoot, others create false sightings to add to the legend or simply for amusement. Some have admitted to faking footprints or filming elaborate hoaxes, making it difficult to distinguish between truth and trickery. This history of pranks has led many to believe that all Bigfoot sightings are just elaborate jokes. But despite the deception, the idea of Bigfoot persists because it's not only about proving the existence of a new creature, it's also about the thrill of the unknown, the excitement of what might be hiding in the untouched wilderness. For the team, the mystery of Bigfoot was captivating. Even as they started to consider that what they saw might have been a prank, the mystery kept their curiosity alive. Regardless of whether Bigfoot truly exists, the quest to find it draws people together, united in a shared sense of wonder for the unknown. But the wonder surrounding Bigfoot's existence has also faced significant setbacks due to numerous hoaxes that have challenged the credibility of Bigfoot hunters. Over the years, some of the most famous Bigfoot hoaxes have cast a shadow on genuine research, making it difficult for serious investigators to be taken seriously. Perhaps the most well-known hoax is the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, which allegedly captured Bigfoot walking through a California forest. Despite initially stirring widespread interest, experts and skeptics have debated its authenticity for decades. Some claim the creature in the footage was merely a man in a costume, while others insist it's the most compelling evidence of Bigfoot to date. News of the discovery spread quickly, but once experts examined the body, they found it was nothing more than a rubber suit. This incident generated immense media attention and temporarily boosted public interest, but when the truth came out, it reinforced doubts about Bigfoot's existence and made people even more skeptical. These hoaxes, and others like them, have undermined the credibility of the Bigfoot community, making it harder for legitimate researchers to gain support. Each new claim is often met with increased scrutiny, and the public has become wary of sensational stories without solid proof. Despite these challenges, dedicated researchers press on, motivated by a belief that one day they might uncover evidence that will restore faith in their work and finally separate truth from trickery. A moment of disappointment, a renewed resolve. Tony, skeptical as ever, suggested that someone had simply donned a costume and staged the sighting for fun. This realization dampened the group's spirits. What began as a thrilling adventure turned to disappointment as they considered the possibility that they had only captured someone in disguise. It was a tough pill to swallow, and it cast doubt on other Bigfoot stories they had once believed. Yet, this setback did not end their journey. The group became even more determined to seek real evidence. They realized they'd need to approach future expeditions with a more critical eye and double-check their findings before allowing themselves to get carried away. Though disheartened, they held on to a sliver of hope, knowing that one day they might encounter undeniable proof of Bigfoot. The possibility, however slim, that the figure they saw could indeed be the legendary creature roaming the North Carolina forests kept them motivated to continue.